A transfer of rulership is coming, and the kingdom of heaven will be on earth. Righteousness will be spread throughout the whole four corners of the earth. Wickedness will be put down. Eternal life. That's what's promised to the elect. All right, all Israel, but it starts with the elect. And that's how the earth will be governed by immortals. Perfect angelic forces who are going to come down and rule on earth. Extraterrestrial bodies will be able to do things that humans do, but in heavenly bodies. Like eating, drinking. Did not Yahushua say he's going to drink wine with us in the kingdom? Well, how do you drink wine with a spiritual body? Well, we're going to have out of this world capabilities in those new bodies.
Look, when Babylon is destroyed on fire, it's going to shake up the whole world. We're going to be beamed up, the hopeful elect. If we're the elect, we're going to be beamed up. And we're going to see this destruction pursuant to Psalm 91 and other scriptures. And we're going to hover over Babylon and we're going to see the destruction. We're going to get a ringside seat to the war of Armageddon. And then we're going to come back down. When we come back down to the earth, we taking everything over. The saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutations to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners, whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. All right, well, I want to get into the day, shutdowns, a lasting impact. And what we have to understand first, let's go here in the spirit, in the precept. All right, because as we go into the technicalities of what's happening, the ins and outs. All right, we're going into all this different information. Well, first and foremost, these things, all right, are spiritual. It started in the spirit. Okay, everything we see, is happening from on high. All right, there's nothing that's happening, okay, that the Lord didn't ordain to happen. All right, and when you go to the book of Job, chapter 14 and 5, it says, seeing that his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou has appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. Okay, so this devil, all right, he has bounds that he can't pass. The Lord, all right, has this man's kingdom measured, okay, and numbered, okay, down to the last millisecond. Okay, and what we're seeing now is that there's signs, okay, that he's at the point to where he's going into bounds, okay, that he can't pass. Let's get this word bounds, and the devil, all right, he's fighting against it. You see, Esau, is set up for him to fight against prophecy. Okay, so what he's doing, he's fighting against, because he can feel it. He can feel that he's coming up to that appointed time. All right, in his mind, through left hand means and through technology. All right, which that word bounds in the Hebrew was hakwa. Okay, would you go into what prescribed portion, all right, limit, okay? So this devil was given a certain portion of time to rule the earth, with the sword, okay? And now we're at the end, okay, of that limit, okay? The devil reached his limit. So now we're finna see the devil, okay, go all out, to try to extend his rulership beyond that prescribed portion, beyond that boundary, okay? And the Lord gonna put the spirit on the devil to go all out to do so. So everything that we see happening, all right, is because this man is reaching his end. Okay. And what we're seeing now, all right, is this man, all right, trying to strategize beyond those bounds that were set. Okay. So we're going to see this man continue to make moves, be tacky, be sloppy, be impulsive, okay, be all over the place. Okay, because he's trying to go beyond those bounds, all right, that are set. Okay, so as we're seeing the Lord, all right, dismantling this man, okay, he's trying to continue on. Okay, and this is what we're watching. So everything plays out, okay, in the spirit, and then they play out, okay, in the earth. Okay, because even when you go here, what's that book of Matthew, chapter 6? Okay, you go to the book of Matthew, chapter 6. Um, and I read this at verse 26. It says, "Behold, all right, the fowls of the air, for they sow not, neither do they reap, nor gather in barns, yet your heavenly Father feedeth them. Are you not much better than they?" Okay, and I brought that out to show you, that the Lord, okay, that He's engaged, in everything, from the fowls of the air, which reap, which sow not, okay, but they eat every day. All is orchestrated by the Most High, so every, all right, living organism, okay, is within the will, all right, in the province of Yahweh Shem Shai. And Esau, Edom, he's no different, okay? He's just another living organism within the will of the Heavenly Father, okay? So what we're seeing now, is all right, is Esau trying to pull off a hell of a task, all right? And what we have to understand, I got a quick video, and I got some little info in the chat I want to get into. But real quick, because what we're seeing with the devil, what we have to understand, dealing with the whole, shutdowns. All right. Now, whether or not it's a trial run, and the devil, open the government back up, okay, you know, and things, continue on. Well, there's lasting effects, okay, that people don't see and people don't consider. See, the big hype now is the SNAP food stamps to hood. Okay, that's the big hype. You know, people are not, people don't understand all the other things that are being affected. Okay, and the lasting impact. See, just like during the lockdowns, you know, there's things that will change and are never coming back and never came back. There's certain businesses that were shut down and never came back. A lot of businesses didn't survive. All right, the lockdowns. Okay, so we're gonna go into, a little information. All right. So with these government shutdowns, whether it be a month, 2 weeks, okay, they have a major impact and ripple effect on things that people don't consider. All right. And this man is strategically doing these things, so he can open the government back up, but there are certain things that have been impacted and certain things that ain't coming back, you know. So we're gonna go and play this video real quick just to show you that there's other things, all right, beyond, God know Eve, all right, all in the camera, just the, the main, okay, talking point with the shutdown, but it goes beyond that. Okay, so let's play this.
That money's gone. And starting on October 20th, federal courts will maintain only limited operations. This applies to all federal appellate courts, district courts, and bankruptcy courts. Federal judges will continue to serve, and a skeleton staff will perform only the basic work that's necessary to keep the doors open. Pacer and case management electronic case file system will remain in operation. Federal juries will also continue, but beyond that, individual courts will determine which cases continue on schedule and which ones may be delayed. But there won't be anyone to answer the phones or help with any problems. If you're involved in a case, it may take a lot longer than you originally expected. The federal court system has announced that it's going to run out of money as of Monday, October 20th, 2025. Up to now, the government shutdown hasn't touched the federal court system because the courts were able to rely on court fee balances and other funds not dependent on a new appropriation. But that money's gone. And starting on October 20th, federal courts will maintain only limited operations. This applies to all federal appellate courts, district courts, and bankruptcy courts. Federal judges will continue to serve, and a skeleton staff will perform only the basic work that's necessary to keep the doors open. Pacer and case management electronic case file system will remain in operation. Federal juries will also continue, but beyond that, individual courts will determine which cases continue on schedule and which ones may be delayed. But there won't be anyone to answer the phones or help with any problems. If you're involved in a case, it may take a lot longer than you originally expected.
And it's just one part. Now you got the court, being held up. I say these certain people that are not at work, so things that make day-to-day function possible, well, those things are not in effect. Okay, and once things are getting backed up, once you turn on the government again, that doesn't catch everything up like rebooting a computer. No, there's a lasting impact to these things. Okay, and it's calculated. Now let's go from there. Let's go to the chat. Ask the chat a few things. Okay, dealing with um, all right, the shutdowns. So let's go back up to the top. I asked it a few things. We'll skim through. Hit some points. Okay. So the first thing, all right. I asked to say, could this government shutdown have lasting effects? All right, that won't be prepared. Could it play a part in a reset? Okay, so it says yes. The current government shutdown in the U.S. can have lasting effects, and there's a possibility that could contribute to a broader reset of how things operate. Okay, because that's what this devil is on. Okay, this is what these things are about. Okay, a broader reset. Okay, of how things operate. This devil is pedal to the metal with this NWO. Okay, and all these moves are being made are just steps closer to that agenda. Okay, so these are the four kinds of consequences that the research suggests are already happening or will happen even if the shutdown is resolved fairly soon. Okay, it says economic drag. It says according to the EY Parthian, each week the shutdown could reduce quarterly GDP growth. All right, about 0.1%. All right. It says the Council of Economic Advisors estimate weekly losses up to 15 billion in GDP. Okay, it says business consumer confidence hit beyond the immediate spending drop. The uncertainty itself can discourage hiring, investment, purchasing, and the job market already trash. Okay, so this can affect hiring in the already trash job market. Okay, the Brookings, the Brookings Institution notes that while short shutdowns are manageable, more prolonged ones can produce lasting damage. Okay, lasting damage via confidence channels. Okay, It says service disruption and delays. Some federal servants are curtailed or delayed, permitting contract payments, data reporting. These may impede private sector activity. All right, the shut activity beyond the shutdown window. Federal workforce contractor impacts for loans, working without pay for essential employees, contractors who may not be guaranteed back pay. All this create ripple effects in households. Okay, uh, let me see. Yep, in households, local economies, and consumer spending. Okay, so this is not just affecting all right Eve, all right, at the grocery store, okay, or the people that's on Snap, you know, at the grocery store. This is gonna be a ripple effect, and even with the grocery store, there's a lot of people that depend on these federal assistance for their profit. A major part of these people's profit from the grocery stores come from EBT. Okay, so the EBT is not only going to affect the recipient, but also these corporations. And if they affect the corporations, they're going to affect the employees. Okay, and this government is set up to collapse, man. And Esau is doing a controlled demolition, man. He understands the ripple effect of everything that he's doing. Okay, this is not no random disagreement between the Republicans and Democrats, man. Okay, this is a reset. All right, and they're trying to they want the government to seem incompetent. All right, to justify bringing in something new. Okay, bringing in a new system, bringing in a new financial system. Okay, bringing in a new all right law enforcement system. Okay, and they already have these things set up. Now they're just doing what needs to be done to justify these things being rolled out. Okay, and it says let's go to the point. It's a little bit at the bottom. All right, it says, yeah, my view says, given all the above, here's a summarized assessment. Yes, this government will leave lasting effects, not just a temporary blip. Some output will be permanently lost. Certain jobs have been permanently lost. Certain output and function of the government going to be permanently lost. Some spending deferred and confidence shaken. Maybe it could play a part in a reset. Okay, meaning structural or systemic changes in budgeting, government private interfaces, or public views of government reliability. But this reset is not automatic, will depend on whether the shutdown becomes a turning point rather than just the episode. And we know these devils intend, all right, if they don't do it now, all right, sometime in the future, they depend on, all right, hitting a turning point, okay, with all this madness they got going on. Okay. So um I asked how much has small businesses lost in shutdown. All right. It says key relevant figures. It says according to the US Chamber of Commerce, during past shutdown, small businesses could lose roughly 100 million in loan financing per day because the small businesses, the SBA, Small Business Administration, stopped processing new loans. A recent article reports that during this shutdown, about 320 small businesses, all right, lose access to approximately 170 million in SBA backed funding each day. It's each day. For historical analysis, all right, during the 2018 19 shutdowns under Donald Trump, your beloved, all right, DJT, okay, and it says small businesses had over 2 billion in loans delayed because the SBA couldn't make new loans. More broadly, for the economy as a whole, the shutdown could cost 12 to 15 billion per week in lost income output, some of which will affect small businesses, man. You know, so there's a lot, all right, that's going on behind the scenes. It's not making the mainstream. Okay, they push. Okay, I say Eve, and then complaining and crying on TikTok. Okay, as the vocal point of the shutdown. All right, but these devils are strategically, okay, causing ripple effects in the economy. All right, causing distrust in the government. Okay, they're doing these things purposely, man. Now let's go here because you remember the lockdowns. So I asked, all right, how many small businesses were lost? All right, and never came back during 2020 lockdowns. It says, let's go here. It says key findings. It says early in the pandemic, one estimate by researchers at Harvard Business School of University of Illinois, University of Chicago suggested that over 100,000 small businesses had permanently closed since 2020. A study by Brookings Institution observes that in quarter two, okay, there were about 305 businesses, all right, business establishments that shut, okay, above trend, but more than 70% eventually reopen. Some other data, once source claims, all right, some other data, one source claims that by July 2020, around 420,000 small businesses had closed permanently, man. Okay, a local survey. Hold on, come on, it won't go there. Hold on. So likely. All right, says some other data. One source claims that by July 2020, around 420,000 small businesses had closed permanently. A local, all right, says a local survey, all right, for example, in San Francisco found about 2% of small businesses reportedly they had permanently closed as a survey snapshot. So you got numbers that vary, but the point of it is that you have businesses, all right, that aren't coming back. Okay, they never shook back. All right, and this devil, he's destroying the small business sector, the middle class sector. Okay, and these shutdowns, okay, are just another way to permanently make changes and downsize the job market. All right, small business sector. Okay, because it's a controlled demolition, man. So he's destroying certain sectors and phases, man. All right. So I think, hold on, it's a little bit at the end right here. It says my best round estimate. It says putting all this together, a reasonable interim estimate in is this, all right, that hundreds of thousands of small businesses in the US permanently closed, all right, and did not reopen due to disruptions in 2020. Early, all right, I said, especially in the early months of the pandemic and lockdown, a conservative lower bound, all right, is 100,000, less than 100,000. Some estimate push toward 400,000. Well, either way, okay, these things happen, okay, and there's a lot of things that never recover, a lot of people that never recover, okay. So these shutdowns, these are strategically done, all right. There's think tanks, okay, that understand the ripple effect of these certain decisions, okay, and they put it in play, okay. The elites have think tanks to make decisions for these governments, man, okay. This ain't, like I say, no random falling out between the left and the right, and all these things that Trump is doing. Trump not coming up with these things, man. Okay, he's a clown. All right, there's think tanks, there's elite, okay, think tanks, okay, they understand the ripple effect of certain decisions, okay, and then that's what's put in place. All right, and then if you trust, okay, in this system, all right, you're going to be extremely disappointed. And ultimately it's going to lead you to what? That sea hip. Okay? He's going to give you it's a method to his madness. Okay, and that's to get you people desperate for any type of solution. He's going to have you all over the place. Okay, in constant fear. You know, this is Isaiah 36:6 says, "Lo, thou trusted in the staff, like of this broken reed on Egypt," which is speaking of America, wherein if a man lean, it will go into his hand and pierce it. So is Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to all that trust in him. Now, this was speaking about, Judah, making an alliance with the Egyptians, okay, because of threats from Assyria, okay. But in the spirit now, what is this speaking of, man? America, okay. And America is a broken reed, which is a broken system. That's why you go into this word. All right, let's get this word broken, okay? Because a reed, is either likened it to a plant, okay, or likened to a rod or a beam, which you can liken it to what? A structure, okay? Because the government is supposed to give structure, to society, man. All right, but you go into this word broken in the Hebrew is ratazas. All right, ratazas. Okay, it says to crush, to oppress. Okay, you see that? And isn't this how this? Because this system is meant to oppress and to crush, to grievously oppress. That's what it's supposed to do. Okay, it says to crush, to discourage. Okay, to discourage. Okay, how many compilations can you go through every day of people expressing their discouragement because of how things are being ran? Okay, and it's meant to do that. It's not it's not an accident. Someone, the wrong person got in office and put in wrong policies. No, this is how it's supposed to run. It's supposed to oppress you. Okay, it's supposed to crush you and discourage you, man. Okay, why? So it says if a man lean, all right, which means you depend on it, you try to rest on it. You make this your rest. Okay, it will go into his hand, which ultimately gonna be that sea hip and pierce it. Okay, because that sea hip is gonna pierce everyone that trust in this place. So is Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to all that trust in him. Okay, all that trust in him. Okay, so if you're leaning on this broken system, on this oppressive, discouraging system, well, it's only leading you to the sea hip. Okay, because he's going to present that as a solution. Okay, as the fix. Okay, for all the incompetence of the old world. Well, this sea hip is going to fix everything of the old way. And this is what the devil is pushing. You see? So that's the point, just wanted to touch on that. All right, so Lord will, you brothers, all right, and you sisters are edified once again. I'm gonna give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to us younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutations to the hopefully. Shalom.